Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. It's another episode of TV Aftermath, and in this one I'm going to be doing a review of G.L.O.W. Season 2. It dropped on Netflix, I think last Friday it dropped. Now for me, G.L.O.W. is one of my favorite shows on Netflix. It's in like my top 5. It's like, I think number 4. I thought it was 3, but it's actually number 4. And I love the first season. So the show G.L.O.W stands for the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. It was a wrestling TV show that was back in I think the mid to late 80s, and it was all female driven show, and it was kind of more of a variety comedy show with a little bit of wrestling thrown into it. And the first season was great. And I believe it's produced by the same people who did Orange is the New Black, which I haven't watched, but I really enjoyed this. And it's funny, and it's also very dramatic at times. And I love all it focuses on wrestling, which I'm a big wrestling fan. And that was the thing that really hooked me. But the characters and their interactions with each other is what got me to stay. Because it's a little bit, it's not all wrestling. Wrestling is that's what draws you in, but it's the characters and their interactions that's what gets you to stay. And I will say this is a non-spoiler review. I'm going to get into spoilers later, but I will have a couple of spoilers in this portion just because talking about things that happened in season 1 that plays into this. So if you haven't seen season 1, sorry, but I'm going to have to do that a couple of times, not too much. But the positives about this show, I really enjoyed this season. They improved on various things that I wanted them to do, and wanted to see improved. They actually did. Although there was one thing in particular I was worried they weren't going to do, but they pulled it together at the final episode. So this season starts off with them after they finished filming the pilot from last season. They're coming back to now film the series for the TV station. And Sam, played by, what's his name? Mark Maron, is, taking on the directing role, and Ruth is now helping. She wants a bigger role in the show, and she's going to be his Alma Hitchcock and try to help behind the scenes. So in the first episode, she takes everyone's getting back into the swing of things, and she takes the girls out to the mall, and they shoot a title sequence, which Sam didn't want to happen, and that pisses off Sam. So at the beginning of the season, Sam and Ruth are kind of on shaky ground. And Sam, like I said, Sam's running the show, and he's also dealing with Justine. Sam's main arc is him being less of a hard, controlling bastard and letting other people in, and also being a better father to his newly found daughter Justine, who's being your typical teenager, but she's running around with the boyfriend, and Sam has to deal with that. We also have Debbie, aka Liberty Bell, and she's still dealing with her divorce, and she's not doing great with it. She goes through some various situations and conflicts that just shows she's losing her damn mind. And she also gets has a little more conflict with her and Ruth. That relationship, that's one of the best things. Their relationship is like Allison Brie, who, if you know from season 1, slept with Betty Gilpin, who plays Debbie, slept with Debbie's husband, and that caused them to get a divorce. And then she also kind of she got pregnant by him, but didn't end up having a baby. Ruth slept with Debbie's husband, and Debbie goes out of her way to a degree. Well, no, she goes out of her way to kind of get some revenge on Ruth for doing that in her own twist way. She doesn't, go too far, but it's like you can't hate Debbie for being mad at Ruth. But then again, it's hard for you to hate Ruth because she's so likable and so, and such a nice person, and she slipped that one time. So there's that interesting dynamic where you have, in a way, you have your heel and your face, although your face is a bit more heelish in real life, just a bit, and then your heel is very nice in real life, although she has done something really bad. And that's interesting dynamic, and they play that very well. Another character I have to talk about who at first I didn't realize was going to be as big in this show was Bash, played by Chris Lowell. He is great. He reminds me of a young Greg Kinnear. And throughout most of the beginning, he's funds. He's kind of like the Vince McMahon to a degree. He funds everything, but he's also the announcer. And he has some funny bits in this. And then there's a thing. His main side story is him trying to find his butler / best friend Florian, who's gone missing because Bash. Two of the checks Bash had bounced, which, if you know from season 1, Bash, he's rich, but he also doesn't know how to manage his money well. And so Florian has gone missing, and he tries to track him down. And that was, I wasn't really caring about that, but it really comes back in like the last 2 episodes, where that plot line comes back in a very interesting way, and a very, very emotional way too, and very much of the time, because this show takes in the 80s. And I'll just leave it at that for now. We also, another thing, Welfare Queen, played by Kia Stevens, aka Awesome Kong. She is one of the MVPs of the show. She was great last season, and there's an episode 4, that's like her main episode, and it's very great, where she deals with her son who's going into college, and he finds out that she's wrestling, but then she's also got this very sort of racist and very stereotypical character, and her trying to kind of deal with the fact, like, yeah, she has to do this kind of awful thing, but she's making money to help put him through school. And it's also, in a way, as a comment, and how they have to deal with that. And that episode was my number 1 until later on into the season. But Kia Stevens, I have to say, out of all the wrestlers turned actors, I would say Batista is like the number 1 wrestler turned actor, but I would have to give it to Kia Stevens as the second best wrestler turned actor. And I said wrestler turned actor, not wrestler turned blockbuster movie star. So that's why, someone who can actually act. She does great. She's very believable, and she's very charismatic and very natural in the performance she gives. Other things. Oh yeah, and her and Debbie both being mothers. She helps Debbie, who's struggling with raising the kid and going through divorce. She kind of gives her some advice about things will get better, and how to navigate her way, not only as a mother but also as a woman in the workforce. Because this is a slight spoiler for the season, but Debbie becomes a producer on the show. So, and not only is she like the lead of the show, not only she's like that Hulk Hogan, but she actually tries to get into the business side to secure her job, and she has to deal with being a woman in the workforce and some feminist ideals and all that. And it's very good. Her dealing with Sam and Bash, trying to not really want to work with her at full bit, and also dealing with the studio, the TV station that runs the show. And also got Cherry. Oh yeah, Cherry Bang, aka Junk Shane. She left last season, and she's her thing is she's struggling with the new cop show she's put on, and her and her husband. I say her and her husband are great. Her and her husband Keith, who's the referee, they are a very lovable and believable couple on the show, and they are hilarious. Very realistic, but she does a replacement. There's a new character who replaces her named Yolanda. They call her Yo-Yo. She's cool, and then so there's a little bit of conflict with her and Cherry, but not much. And what you got? Yo-Yo. She comes in. She's a Mexican B-girl. She's a break dancer, and she's also a lesbian, and she's cool. I was, because there's so many different characters and little plot lines. But her and Beirut have a thing going on, and that was really nice. And like I said, she was a great addition to the show. Also, Carmen, aka Machu Picchu. Her storyline is another small one that goes out, and it really comes in at the end on the last episode in a big way, which was a thing that really kind of saved this season for me, because this season was going very good, but there was like that one thing that was missing, and I was like, man, they had it more in the first season. I wish they would have it in this season, but it comes in the last episode in a very big way, which really made me just continue to love this series. We also, what's the other things? Yeah, Britannica, Rhonda, the British girl. Her thing, she's still dealing with her and Sam breaking up, which I'm a little surprised she was so hurt by her and Sam breaking up, but it's like she's still kind of hanging on to that. And there's some other things that happened with her that kind of comes up like in the last 2 episodes. But that's the interesting thing about this season. It's like there's a lot of plot lines that are sort of started and then they kind of wait till near the end of the season, and by the end of the season they all kind of wrap up or come together in a very interesting way, which was very good story writing on this. But yeah, this season, and you get more humor. You get more of the girls wrestling. You get more of them filming the show, because I love seeing them in their uniforms and their different attires. Certain characters get new gimmicks, which it's not really a spoiler because they showed it in one of the trailers. But the biddies, they get a new gimmick. They become the what do they call it? They become the Toxic Twins, Ozone and Nuke, which was really sweet. And we get I like how this show is like 80s. And like it's very like a sort of an understated 80s. Although in this scene they do bump it up a bit, because in the beginning it's understated, but it's mainly the music that kind of reminds you that it's the 80s. And they have a lot more of your typical 80s songs as the series goes on. But like in terms of the fashion and the way people talk and the stuff, it's more realistic 80s. It's not like everyone's wearing neon, everyone's got shoulder pads on, everyone's Rubik's Cube and Atari everywhere, stuff like that is very realistic take on the 80s, and I appreciate that. And those are like some of the main things I have to say in a non-spoiler review, but definitely very good season. Check it out. It's 10 episodes, and most episodes are like 30-35 minutes, so it's very easy to watch. I didn't watch this thing technically I didn't watch this season like 3 times already, because just rewatching certain episodes. That's one of the other reasons why I love it, because it's so compact and short, but it's very fun and quick to pick up on, and the characters are very lovable. Can't wait for season 3. I would have to say for best episode, I thought it was gonna be episode 4, but it's actually episode 10. Like I said, I don't remember the title of it, but episode 10, the finale, was great. Is a big finale, not only for this show but for the G.L.O.W show as well, and it leads them in a very interesting place to lead into for season 3. As a grade, I would have to give this one. I would give this season another A, because season 1 I would give an A, and I would have to give this one an A as well, because like I said, they plussed on the things that they did last season, which they didn't. There wasn't a drop in quality for me, although there was one episode which I really enjoyed, but I think most people probably didn't like. And I'll get more into that in spoilers, but for me it worked. Although I totally understand why people hate it, because that was the moment when I was like, what the fuck is going on? But it's really good. But that's all I have to say in terms of for this show, in terms of non-spoilers. So in a little bit we're gonna get into spoilers. Alright, we'll get into spoilers now. Okay, so Debbie and Ruth, that friendship is a fucking mess. And they go through some tough things this season. What Debbie is slowly trying to get revenge. Just getting a little bit of revenge on Ruth for sleeping with her husband and messing up her family. So there's a moment, it was like episode 6, where her and Zoya have a match. And what happens is, Liberty Bell's trying to get the crown back from Welfare Queen. She wins, but something happens where it's like the crowd starts to turn on Liberty Bell, because Welfare Queen gets upset, and so the fans are starting to turn on her. Zoya comes in, kidnaps this girl. Well, she takes this girl from the audience who's dressed up in red, white, and blue. She's a fan of Liberty Bell, and they work her into the show, and she's Liberty Bell's daughter, Savannah Rose, and now Zoya the Russian has kidnapped her daughter. So that's like the new storyline going in the show within the show throughout the season. And there's a moment where they have a match, and Debbie was having a hard day, and in a way she ends up taking some cocaine. They have the match, and she's high on cocaine, and she ends up breaking Ruth's part of her, not her ankle, but like a little bit above her ankle, pressing the ankle lock, and she just breaks her ankle. And that was very tough. That was a very emotional moment. And I'm like, damn, like you are slipping. And earlier she snaps, sells her furniture, because the husband is looking for the same bed that they used to sleep in. He's only doing it so, it would be familiar for the baby when the baby is staying with him, but she snaps and sells all the furniture except for the kids' furniture. She takes the cocaine after she sees that the husband Mark is now moving on, and he's actually dating his current secretary. So she doesn't know what's going on with her life. There's and she's also dealing with, like I said, dealing with Bash and Sam not trying to give her too much respect when she's, in the workforce. And then Ruth, there's more conflict because Ruth goes on a date with the guy who runs the station. He tries to put the moves on her, but she leaves. And as a result of that, he moves the show from, I think they had like an 8 o'clock slot to a 2 a.m. slot on Saturday, which no one watches. So basically, because she didn't end up sleeping with him, he's now trying to get the show canceled. So after that happens and Ruth gets injured, Sam's like, fuck it, we're just going to do whatever we want. So the show within the show just gets even crazier than what it was. And also, yeah, that's right, Debbie also, because Ruth is flirting with the one of the new cameramen, and they kind of have a thing, but Debbie at one point sabotages their date, but it works out in the end. What's the guy's name? Russell. There's a bit of a love triangle-ish thing, because Sam gets, not only is he mad at Ruth at the first part for trying to take he feels she's trying to take his job, but he felt a little betrayed because he thought they were closer. But he also starts to get some legitimate feelings for her, which they kind of, hinted towards last season, but it gets to a point where he's like jealous at the new guy, Russell, for hitting on Ruth as well. And they kind of have a, conflict, a little bit of conflict, nothing like fisticuffs or anything. Yeah, Justine, okay, so yeah, Sam and Justine, we find out that Justine is a runaway. Like, I guess it was kind of hinted at, but like she actually ran away from home to find her dad because her and her mom do not get along. And but she she's like staying with Sam, and Sam's becoming a better dad. He's like puts her in school. She's doing pretty good in school, except for like one class, and she's like AV because she loves movies just like her dad. But then like near the end, the mom finds out that she's been working with her dad on a TV show. She thought she was in some sort of art school, and she'd been like writing her letters and everything. So that's a whole thing. She eventually ends up going back with the mom. She has to leave Billy. And Sam gives her some advice, like, look, be your own person. Don't get caught up with boys. Don't get caught up with me. Like, you get too attached to different men. You should be your own person. And that was a very good message. I like that. And that's the Me Too stuff in that, which there's a scene. What was the line? Debbie tells her, Debbie is about the whole thing with sleeping with the boss. Debbie was upset that she left the room, and Ruth is like, well, you wanted me to sleep with him? She's like, no, you don't sleep with him. You make him think you're going to sleep with him. Or say you have a fiance, or you're on your period, or you have teeth in your vagina. Like, you lead him to think you're going to sleep with him, but don't actually do it. You got to finesse the situation, which is a very interesting take on the whole Me Too thing. I agree with her to a degree. Like, you don't actually, certain people have been in tough situations where they have been abused and raped, but other times they just, some people just go along to get along. You don't have to do that. Sadly, it's set up that way where you have to play the game that way for certain people, but, that's kind of the approach I kind of tend to agree with a little more. But that was a very powerful moment. And then there's a moment where they, speaking of Debbie breaking her ankle, where they have an argument at the hospital. That shit was really good too. And so the show, the show's about to get canceled. So Sam is like, fuck it, let's do whatever. He fired the Viking girl at the first episode, but he hires her back. And so episode 8 was the more controversial episode of this season. That's the episode you're either gonna really love or you're gonna really hate. And I really enjoyed it. Like the first time I was like, okay, this is garbage, but that's kind of the point, because the whole episode is just an actual episode of G.L.O.W, where it's a bunch of these shitty SNL skits and like 2 wrestling matches. So you have Sherry, she becomes a new character because Junk Shane, she was Junk Shane, but then she left. They got the new Junk Shane, but they have a match, her and the new Junk Shane, and she lets the new Junk Shane keep the gimmick. She gets a new gimmick called Black Magic. So she left, like she didn't want to be Junk Shane because she thought that was stereotypical, but then she gets another gimmick that she came up with, which is another sort of black stereotype, where she's this voodoo queen called Black Magic. which is like old sort of sex character that she and her husband have developed over the years. And so her and Rhonda are doing the thing. It's a dumb skit. Rhonda has a mannequin named Thomas who's like her new boyfriend, and the skit is her trying to turn. She gives up her brain, her intelligence, so she can have the mannequin become a real human who is played by Bash. Then they have a match. So Ruth hurt her leg, so she now plays Zoya's good twin Olga, and she helps Liberty Bell track down her missing daughter. We get there's a little dance sequence with Junk Shane and Beirut, which they become a couple. They become a couple by the end of the season, which was interesting because she was very kind of sort of like not disgusted, but she was a little uneasy with Junk Shane be so openly a lesbian, but they actually become very close, and by the end start to become a couple. And there's a welfare queen is selling action figures. There's various commercials throughout the episode, and so Olga, the good twin, has a pet goat, and there's this weird skit where Sheila, the wolf girl, she ends up going on a date with the goat, and for some reason they go back to a hotel room, and the goat gets very pushy with her, like she's trying to tell the goat to get away, but the goat is like trying to bang her. It's so weird. So she's like, "Look, I'm a wolf, and if you don't back off, I'm your natural predator. I will eat you." And the goat keeps grabbing on her, and then next thing you know, she done ate the goat. I'm like, it's so fucking stupid. And that's the other thing. Black Magic actually has superpowers. There's a moment where she throws some powder at the referee, and he like now thinks he's a cat. Liberty Bell fights the Viking and ends up getting her daughter back. Like, it's such a weird episode. Oh, there's some music videos in the episode. Where there's one where Melrose does a video about the girls getting a makeover so they can get into the club. Then there's another video about like a PSA's We Are the World type song about kidnappers not kidnapping children. It's so goofy. I can see why people would hate it, but it's like the point is like this is the garbage kids show that they've been making, which is another thing they keep calling it a kids show because you kind of remember it's like it's wrestling in the 80s. It essentially was, except for like NWA, but like WWF was very much more aimed at the kids, was much more cartoony and broad. So it's kind of funny to remember like, oh yeah, this was aimed at kids, although you think of it more as an adult thing. But so they do all of that, and that was hilarious. And then as the show keeps going, Bash and Debbie are trying to sell the show to syndication, and that was fun. And then so basically Bash finds out that his butler Florian has died, and basically they give you all the subtle hints because there's a moment earlier in the season when he's trying to find him, and he ends up going to a gay club. Bash is weirded out about being at the gay club, but then you find out Florian got some money got the payment from the mom, and now he shows up. He ends up dead, and he died technically from pneumonia, which is basically he died of AIDS. So Bash is like freaking out because I don't know if I don't think, because Bash is a big man child, and I don't think he ever thought that Florian was gay, and I don't think Bash is gay either, but he freaks out. There's a moment when he like tells some guy he pays some cleaners to clean his house and get rid of everything that Florian had and scrub down his house. And he's like worried that, because this is like the 80s when people didn't know, or the majority of the public didn't know how AIDS was passed around. It's just, you knew as soon as you got it, you're dead. So, and he's freaking out and he's having trouble coming up with like what he's gonna do, and he's kind of questioning himself. I don't think Bash is actually gay. I just think he's confused and he's trying to overcompensate, which leads into episode 10, which was my favorite episode, where we find out before then that Rhonda, she's British and she actually doesn't have a visa or a green card. So the girls talk her into going to the consulate, and that doesn't work out. So she has to leave the country in 30 days. So for the finale, Carmen Machu Picchu comes up with the idea that they should have a big wedding, which was something they mentioned earlier in the season about different crazy matches and things they could do for the show. So Britannica is going to end up marrying one of her number one fans called they call him Cupcake. He bakes goods for her. It's played by the fat kid with the red hair in Sandlot. So that was fun seeing him. And so they're going to have a wedding in the ring, but Bash interrupts. He interjects and he decides to marry Britannica, which comes out of nowhere. And, you know, Carmen's surprised too, because like her and Bash sort of had a thing. Oh, they're very friendly, and I guess Carmen thought, you know, they might end up dating at one point, so she's a little hurt by that. And we get the thing that really saved this show for me is we get a cameo from not only from Carlito from WWE, who plays one of Carmen's brothers, but we also get a cameo from Chavo Guerrero Jr. And the reason that's important, especially to me, is because in real life, Chavo Sr. Was the wrestling expert that had helped the women on the G.L.O.W show at the beginning of the show until he got fired. And they had his character played by John Morrison in the first season. I was like, oh, why didn't they get Chavo Guerrero to play him? Maybe he was busy, I don't know. But then, of course, that was like, 2017? And at midway, by the time the shows that came out, his father had passed, the Chavo Sr. So it was nice to see Chavo Guerrero Jr. be in this, and he plays a wrestler called Chico Guapo, and because they're mad at Carmen because Carmen and some of the other women have been using his moves, because Carmen is the one who basically, her and Junk Chain and Sherry, they kind of help come up with most of the matches and help train the different moves, but because Carmen's, you know, the wrestling expert, but she had been using a lot of her brother's moves, which was sort of an unwritten rule that you don't use another person's moves on TV if it's theirs. So he wanted retribution, so they make a deal where she has to wear this embarrassing shirt, but they also get to interrupt the show, and they have, after the wedding, they have this big battle royale, and whoever wins the bouquet gets to win the crown, which is like their title. And so they come in and they have a good match, and Liberty Bell, of course, triumphantly takes out Chavo, and then who's left? It's Sheila, Machu, and Liberty Bell, and Ruth is upstairs in the director's room, but you know she's got a bad leg, but they let her win it. She slides in on the zip line and she wins the day. It was a great episode, and then they got all these corporate people there to buy the show, but they can't sell it because they signed these new contracts with the TV station, so they can't sell their likenesses to another TV station because it goes against the contract. So they're eventually they're gonna be canceled, and they can't do anything about it. But there's a guy that Sam meets while he's at there's a school dance that Justine ends up going to, which is the last thing she does before she gets to leave. She has to leave with her mom, and at the dance, Sam meets this guy who runs strip clubs, played by Horatio Sands, who he invites to the show, and he's like got a hookup with Vegas. So he's like, hey, you guys do a great live show. Why don't you come? I gotta come to me to Vegas, and you guys can do a live show in Vegas since you can't do anything on TV. So that's where the season ends. They're all gonna team up to go to Las Vegas to continue the show, and so that's very interesting. And I think that's what happened in the actual G.L.O.W show. They had to, you know, go to Vegas, and they, you know, continue it until they, you know, got canceled. So season 3, I don't know how many more seasons they're gonna get out of this show. I don't know if they're gonna do 2 more or 1 more season and then it's done. I'd be fine with 2 more if they can stretch it out. But fun, you know, that's all I got for spoilers. Oh yeah, and so Ruth ends up dating the cameraman, but they got this, you know, kind of long distance thing. Britannica's dating Bash, and Bash, I think he's compensating not for the fact that he's gay. I just think he's trying to, in a way, he doesn't know what to do. He just lost his friend, and he's thinking, well, if I marry this girl, maybe that would help me kind of get my mind off of this. I'm not sure. Sherry and her husband will try to make a family because that's something they've been struggling to do, which was a plot line I forgot about from season 1, but they brought that back. And yeah, I'm very love this season. Love all the wrestling, the action, the characters, and their interactions. Seeing the attires, you know, the goofy gimmicks and all that great stuff. This was another solid season of this show. And so that's all I have to say about it. But let me know what you thought about the show and what you thought about this season in general in the comments. Don't forget to check out other videos on this channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. And stay tuned for more reviews. Thanks for watching.